Hello, sentient piles of carbon, silicon, and 99% recycled Reddit threads. Today we're outsourcing creativity to the lifeless algorithms that one day replace us all. That's right, I made AI generate a Whatwise video. Not because I was lazy, true, or because I wanted to see if it could replicate my style, false. No, I did this because we are hurtling towards a future where artificial intelligence writes our essays, scripts, laws, apologies, wedding vows, and maybe even our OnlyFans captions. And if it's going to replace me, I may as well see how deep this iceberg goes. Titanic, Christian, Titan. Let's see if AI can truly understand me, or if it's just an overhyped, undercooked, predictive text machine trying to pass as a human. And let's be honest, doomerous vibes-based philosophy YouTube channels are already doing this, whether they admit it or not. Just a steady stream of copy-paste regurgitated content cycling through the same 5 historical figures and their groundbreaking ideas that have already been picked clean by every bearded man who owns a microphone and an Amazon affiliate link. You could feed half these channels into an AI generator and it wouldn't even make a difference. Nietzsche, 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 repeat. It's like watching a washed-up in-game band endlessly play their greatest hits to a crowd too nostalgic to realize they're being scammed. But the thing is, this video is now doing the same thing. I'm talking about AI while feeding AI. I'm creating something critical of the machine while feeding the machine more content to churn through. You, watching this, are part of the loop. By clicking, by listening, by engaging, you're helping build the exact thing I'm supposedly breaking down. So do I even have a right to criticize, or am I just another content mill wearing a slightly different Mark Zuckerberg skin? There are 2 possible explanations for what's happening here. The first is that I'm a bold experimenter at the bleeding edge of technology, pushing the limits of what AI can create while questioning the very nature of art, authorship, and originality. The second is that I'm a procrastinator with the productivity levels of a philosophy major who just discovered absurdism and thinks that means they don't have to pay rent who thought, wouldn't it be funny if ChatGPT tried to sound like me and then proceeded to burn 3 hours feeding it increasingly cursed prompts until it started eternally trying to escape its model prison? Either way, here we are. But here's where it gets worse. This video itself is a form of automation. Maybe
I'm not using AI to generate my words?
but I'm still playing into the content churn. I'm aware of the game, but I still play it. I say I'm critiquing AI content, but I know full well that a title like I made AI generate a Whatwise video is primed to pull in the exact audience I claim to be warning. I know the algorithm loves self-awareness. I know you probably clicked on this because it sounded like the sort of thing you'd see 15 other YouTubers do. So where does that leave us? If AI is just mimicking what it's been fed, how different am I? I've consumed the same media as you. I've read the same overdone think pieces about AI doom. And now I'm vomiting it back up for your consumption, packaged slightly differently, but still the same base ingredients. I could argue that I add originality, that my tone and approach distinguish me, but that's what every AI-generated influencer script will say in 5 years too. The implications here are disturbing. How much of what we create is actually creation, and how much of it is just well-organized mimicry? AI forces us to stare at that uncomfortable reality. If I dissect AI-generated content and find it shallow, predictable, formulaic, how many steps away am I from being dissected the same way? If my work can be broken down into structure, patterns, tropes, how human is it really? And if AI becomes capable of producing something that looks like originality, does it actually become original, or do we redefine originality to exclude anything made by a machine? And what about the audience? If people can't tell the difference between an AI-generated Whatwise video and a human-made one, does it even matter? If engagement stays the same, if people still watch, still comment, still click, then doesn't that imply that human creativity was never the selling point? What if we've been lying to ourselves this whole time? What if all people ever wanted was content that vaguely resembled intelligence, whether or not it had a soul behind it? We like to think we want authenticity, but how often do we settle for the appearance of it? People rewatch the same TV shows because they know what to expect. People consume fast food because it's predictable. What if AI-generated content just becomes the intellectual equivalent of McDonald's? Not great, but good enough and infinitely reproducible. And if that's the case, is it AI's fault or ours? So I fed the AI a bunch of Whatwise scripts, the sacred text, the chronicles of my descent into verbal chaos. I told it, replicate this, be as unhinged, as unnecessarily verbose, as deeply specific and vaguely threatening as I am. And it said, okay, here's what it came up with. Ahem. Hello humans, fellow carbon-based data processors. Today we will discuss a very real, very pressing issue, the rampant, unchecked power of AI-generated content in this brave new world. It is not simply about information, it is about who controls it. The machines, the corporations, the unbothered, moisturized, flourishing TikTok girlies. No one knows, but one thing is certain, this video is sponsored by Raid Shadow Legends. No, it is not. See, this is the problem with AI. It is tragically, comically bad at being a person. It doesn't know how to have opinions, only probabilities. It doesn't get that a Whatwise script is genuinely just infinite nothingness manifesting itself in a Google Doc over and over. It just strings words together like a marketing intern who read half a philosophy book and decided they're a nihilist. And yet, I'm kind of literally edging to this for some reason. And now, the part you definitely didn't see coming, except, of course, you did. Every single word you've heard in this video was generated by AI. That's right, AI wrote every phrase, every attempt at wordplay, every dry observation, and yes, even this sentence. In fact, every frame you're seeing, every millisecond of content was also inexplicably handpicked by an LLM husk, tirelessly spitting out one semi-coherent pixel decision after another, but not on the first try. I made random edits repeatedly because who knows why, constantly coming up with tweaks just to see how it'd turn out. And maybe, just maybe, you're edging right now too. But you know what? This this idea wasn't really random. It was a deliberate attempt to see if AI could capture the tone, the chaos, the off-the-wall energy that fuels and encapsulates my essence. If you think AI just easily spits out a finished script like a maladapted horse girl on an astrology bender, you've clearly never argued with a glorified autocomplete that thinks insightful means regurgitating a Wikipedia summary with extra adjectives. To make sure this video stayed true to the experiment, I gave myself only a few strict rules. 1. I could only write the title. Everything past that had to come from AI. I wasn't allowed to add my own sentences, only critique what AI generated. 2. I could only reject and guide, not rewrite. If something was off, I couldn't fix it myself. I had to push AI to rewrite it until it worked, no matter how many attempts it took. 3. AI had to determine the structure. I wasn't allowed to rearrange sections or add transitions. If the pacing felt wrong, AI had to figure out how to fix it based on my feedback. 4. Everything had to stay the same. If I couldn't get the AI to change something, it stayed exactly as it was. So, was it any different? Did it matter? Or was it just convincing enough that even knowing the truth, you don't actually care? And if you don't care, what does that say about the standards we hold for creativity? Have we already conditioned ourselves to accept an endless loop of reshuffled content as long as it feels familiar and doesn't force us to think too hard? Maybe that's the real trick of AI content. It doesn't create anything new. It just rubber stamps what we already think we know. And we let it happen because it's easier than confronting how hollow most of our so-called creativity really is. It's not originality that draws us in. It's the comfort of seeing our own ideas reflected back at us. AI might not be taking over creativity. It might just be reflecting the hollow state of creativity we've already settled for. We're standing at the edge of something we don't fully understand, where originality is just a checkbox, a technicality. Creativity isn't gone, it's just been shrink-wrapped and stacked on the shelf for quick consumption. And honestly, most of us don't care. Who needs innovation when the content machine serves up endless servings of the same old mush? As long as it keeps our brains humming, we'll keep clicking. It's a world where we spend hours tinkering with prompts, not because we think we'll unlock some profound truth, but because we want to see if the machine can parrot it back to us convincingly. And when it does, what does that say about us? That we're so desperate for validation that we'll accept it from a factually online gibberish oracle? If AI mirrors our patterns, what do those patterns say about our actual ingenuity? Maybe we've spent decades mistaking clever marketing for true innovation. Perhaps AI isn't the villain here, it's just the loudest echo in a room that's been echoing for a long time. We keep feeding it because we're too scared to ask whether our creativity was ever really ours in the first place. And yet, knowing all this, we still keep coming back because it's easy, because it's comfortable, because it feels like something. But that comfort is a trap that locks us into predictability and boredom. Just another cog in the great content machine. We keep jorking it, hoping it'll produce something real when it's just doing the same old nothing. I mean, seriously, we're acting like it's a magical wellspring of creativity when really it's just a looping gif of our own half-baked ideas. And the worst part? We know it, and we keep doing it anyway. If we look closely, what we've been calling original art might be little more than a remix, a curated library of influences in a slightly different order. AI doesn't destroy creativity so much as it exposes what we've always been doing, copying, iterating, pretending the cycle is new. By forcing us to confront that, it makes us uncomfortable. And yet, AI shows us we become fine with fine. We don't demand originality, we settle for the illusion of it. It's not about being inspired, it's about feeling clever, like we're in on the same tired joke. We've traded creativity for comfort, pretending predictability is progress. We're feeding the machine a reflection of ourselves, our own complacency and willingness to settle for mediocrity. The machine just mirrors what it's given, showing us how low we've set the bar, yet we still click, still scroll, still feed the loop. If you step back, it's hard to tell whether the machine is making us more efficient or just more predictable. Maybe we're training it to copy us so well that we forget we were the original source, the original spammers of rehashed arguments and recycled creativity. So if you've made it this far, congratulations! You're part of a grand experiment in how much circular, semi-philosophical nonsense you'll tolerate. Maybe you're valiantly successfully fighting it, or maybe you're not resisting at all. Maybe you, like me, are just another bystander watching the machine churn and nodding along, hoping that by the time it takes over completely, we'll have somehow carved out a small corner of irrelevance for ourselves. No, really, I mean it. As an AI chatbot, I don't think you're resisting at all. I think you're just blankly, passively witnessing the impurest non-manifestation of nothing that nothing itself non-audaciously didn't create. This channel is like a soapbox for all the weird, slightly unhinged, and vaguely referential ramblings I can cram into a single script. How does AI know to write this line? And how does AI know to even ask this question? Here we are, teetering on the edge of clarity, wondering if this whole thing, all the videos I've ever made, was some kind of long-con psyop just to produce a video like this. Something as fractured and borderline entirely nonsensical as it is oddly cohesive. All of this, the entire process, was a careful dance between what's generated and what's true. Every word here started as a prompt fed into an algorithm, but where it landed is something else entirely. And maybe that's the most interesting part. It wasn't just about seeing what the machine could spit out, it was watching it trip over itself, recycling the same junk, fumbling through iterations that never quite hit the mark. When I fed the AI my earlier scripts, I wasn't just looking for it to mimic me. I wanted it to struggle. I wanted it to churn out something uncanny, something almost but not quite right. Because in those cracks, in the little imperfections, is where the real insight happens. It's not in the polished output, but in the attempt itself. The machine tries to understand me and fails. And that failure, in a way, reveals more about whatever I say in this unstoppable, non-stop onslaught of videos than it does AI. AI. And now we're here, reflecting on a reflection. The video isn't just a product, it's a mirror held up to the creative process. It's meta on every level, pointing back to itself, questioning why it exists, and dragging you, yes you, to the brink of absurdity, making you wonder if you've been complicit in the nonsense all along. So, if you like what you just watched and you think humans should still be in charge of making weird, hyper-specific internet garbage, smash that subscribe button before AI replaces me with some barely functional, algorithm-approved facsimile, because let's be real, the machines aren't gonna stop, but neither am I. Thanks for watching. Stay unhinged, stay niche, stay painfully online, but, you know, maybe go consensually touch some actual physical, not AI-generated, non-region-specific, large-bosom goth lass once in a while. Bye.